Welcome to A Course in Miracles. I'm Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles. And we are going to be doing the investment in reality. The investment in reality is going to be on page 220 in the Course in Miracles text, chapter 12, section 3. The investment in reality. We're going to go deep. We're going to go deep. We're going to go deep. We're going to focus in on the truth. And as you know, I call myself the divine repetition teacher, the divine remembering teacher. The Course in Miracles continually talks about the importance of us remembering what it's saying. It doesn't, nowhere in the book does it emphasize analyzing the Course in Miracles. So I'm not analyzing the Course in Miracles, but I am going to see what is the message that this particular section trying to give us. What's the instructions that's going to give us the peace and the joy and the happiness that the Course in Miracles promises that we deserve. The Course in Miracles gives you some guidelines to studying the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles tells you how to study A Course in Miracles. Hello, all my mighty companions coming online right now. So we're going to be on the investment in reality, page 220, chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum. And the Course in Miracles is only talking about love and fear. So the first thing we need to remember is that we need not believe the ideas. We need not accept the ideas. We need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Hello, Les. And some of the ideas may startle you in A Course in Miracles. Some of the ideas in A Course in Miracles may startle you. Did you hear what I said? Some of the ideas in A Course in Miracles may startle you. And it also says you're not asked to judge the ideas at all. That's the same as saying nobody's asking us to analyze A Course in Miracles. It says their use will give the ideas meaning to you, and the use of the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. So it's the use of the ideas that will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. You have to use it. You have to use it. If you use it, if you use it, if you use it, if you use it. It's not about sitting around and talking about it and analyzing it. It's about the use of the ideas. It says if you use the ideas, their use will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. So we're going to start out with the investment in reality. And it says in the very first paragraph, let's go through it together. I hope you have your books. Let's go through it together. It says, I once asked you, Jesus of the Course says, I once asked you to sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. This is what I meant. This is what I meant. When I told you to sell all you have, give to the poor, and follow me, this is what I meant. Basically, what it's meant by that is if you have no investment in anything in the world, you can teach the poor where their treasure is if you have no investment in anything in this world. You can teach the poor where their treasure is. Now, the Course in Miracles has a different definition of poor. Always remember that the Course in Miracles has its own meanings and interpretations of the terms that it uses. I think sometimes what makes the Course in Miracles difficult for people is they want to project the meanings and the learnings that they already have onto the Course, or try to fit what the Course in Miracles is saying into the belief system that they already have. And it's very difficult to get what the Course in Miracles is saying. For just a moment, it's almost like to study the Course in Miracles. It's like, just for a moment, let go of what you think you know. Because it says in the book that all you have to recognize is what you know may not be all there is to know. It says, then your journey has begun. So the poor are merely those who have invested wrongly. So if you're investing in what is not true, if you're investing in what is not love, if you're investing in what is not consciousness, what is not oneness, what is not spirit, he says, well, that's what, from a Course in Miracles perspective, investing wrongly means. It's not talking about the stock market. It's not talking about material money. It's talking about what is the thought system that you're going to invest in. Are you investing in love? Or are you investing in fear? Are you investing in peace? Are you investing in conflict? Are you investing in victim consciousness? Are you investing in the consciousness that takes responsibility for your experience? The poor are merely those who have invested wrongly. And then the Course says those people are poor indeed. Indeed, they are in need. It is because they are in need, it is given you to help them. Since you are among them, it's given you to help them. Since you are among the poor, those who have invested wrongly, then the Course in Miracles says to us, then it is given you to help them. So what do you do? What do you do? Consider how perfectly your lesson would be learned. Consider how perfectly your lesson would be learned. Consider how perfectly your lesson would be learned if you are unwilling to share their poverty. So if I'm not willing to invest in fear, if I'm not willing to invest in separation, if I'm not willing to invest in guilt, then the truth is I would learn my lesson more perfectly. So are you willing to not share in the Course in Miracles definition of poverty, which would be invested in separation, fear, and guilt? So what's the next sentence? Poverty is lack. So poverty is lack. A lack of what? A lack of love. Don't forget, the Course in Miracles is always talking about love or fear. It says we're only experiencing love, and there's a lot of different forms that love come in, abundance, prosperity, peace, happiness. These are just some of the examples. And fear comes in many forms: anger, guilt, grievances, sickness, the past. So the Course in Miracles is saying poverty is lack, and there is but one lack, since there is but one need. So what is the one need that we all have? The one need we have is love. The one need we have is unity, oneness. The Course is saying we only got one need. That's why it says teach only love, for that is what you are. I know that there's a part of your mind that probably wants to make it a lot more complicated than it is. But the Course in Miracles says that it's simple. It's not hard. It just says it's very different. So it's taking a different approach to the same universal truths. And I tell people every class, the Course in Miracles is not for everyone. No particular spiritual path is for everyone. There's no form that works for everybody. There are many different paths to the one truth that we all share. The Course in Miracles appeals to some people, and to some people it never does. So suppose a brother or a person insists on having you do something you don't want to do. Suppose somebody's insisting that you do something that you don't want to do. Their very insistence should tell you that they believe that their peace and their happiness and their healing and their salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing what it is that they want you to do, and if you experience a quick response of opposition to what they want you to do, then you believe your peace lies in not doing whatever it is that they want you to do. They believe their peace lies in what they've defined that they think they need. And you are saying your peace lies in refusing to do it. So you're making the same mistake that person is. You're making that person's mistake real to both of you. So when it says insistence means investment. So whenever you say insistence, then you're talking about investment. So when it says the investment in reality, it's talking about the insistence in reality. You are insisting on reality. The reality, which is love, is the only thing that you really want. It's the only thing that you really value. So the Course in Miracles is saying to us that insistence means investment. And what you invest in is always related to your own notion of salvation. Whatever you invest in is your own notion of salvation, your own notion of peace. Whatever I put all my attention in, whatever I insist on, whatever I invest in, whatever I insist on, that's what my notion of happiness and peace and satisfaction is what I think I need for my peace and my satisfaction is in whatever I invest in, which is whatever I insist on. So the Course in Miracles then says the question is always twofold. So there are two questions that you need to ask yourself. First, what is to be saved? And then the next question is how it can be saved. So the first thing that we're going to ask is, what is it that I'm trying to save and how do I save it? Well, there's not anything really to save but your peace, really. And so the next question is, how can you save your peace, right? What is to be saved? What is it that you're trying to save and how do you save it? What's important to you? What do you think your happiness is coming from? That's what you're going to insist on. That's what you're going to invest in. So the question is, what's to be saved and how can it be saved? What is it that you're trying to save and how can it be saved? Okay, so now, when you're studying the Course in Miracles, and like I've been doing for almost 40 years, teaching it and studying it, I want you to keep in mind that the Course in Miracles anticipates the questions that are going to come up in your mind as you read it. So if you don't do the thing of stopping and then analyzing what you just read, if you keep on moving forward in the material, then it's going to explain to you what it's talking about. Let me give you an example. It says, whenever you become angry with a brother, whenever you become angry with another, for whatever reason. So I don't care what you're angry about. You could be angry about all the things that are happening in the world right now. It says, whenever you become angry with a person, for whatever reason, when you're angry, you're believing that the ego is to be saved. You're believing that your fear is to be saved. You're believing that your separated self is to be saved. You're believing that guilt is to be saved. These are all definitions of what the ego is. The Course in Miracles defines an ego as a fearful thought. So whenever you become angry, you're trying to save your sense of separation. You're trying to save your ego. And the Course says we believe that our ego, our separate self, is to be saved by anger and attack. So anger and attack keeps you feeling separate. Anger and attack is one of the best things that we do to keep separation going. If I'm angry at you, if I'm feeling fear towards you, then quite naturally I'm going to be experiencing some separation with you. So the Course in Miracles says, whenever you become angry with another for whatever reason, what are you believing needs to be saved? Your ego. How do you save your ego? Your sense of a separate self. The Course in Miracles says you save it by attack, which is anger. And if the other person attacks, you are agreeing with this belief that the ego needs to be saved. And if you attack, you are reinforcing the belief that the ego and the separate self is to be saved. So what does that mean? Well, you need to remember one thing. So what is it that you need to remember? You need to remember that those who attack are poor. So the Course in Miracles definition of a poor person is a person that's PO'd all the time, angry all the time, upset all the time, and attacking all the time. That's one of the Course in Miracles definitions of a person that is poor. So those who attack are poor. Those who attack their poverty ask for gifts, not for further impoverishment, which is not for further attack. So a person that's attacking, which is a person that's afraid, that person is not asking for more attack. They're not asking for more fear. Their poverty, their desire to attack, ask for gifts, not for what? Further impoverishment. You who could help the person that's poor. Now, who's the person that's poor? The person that is attacking, the person that is investing wrongly. Because you are investing wrongly when you invest in anger, guilt, and grievances and attack. So it says, their poverty asks for gifts, not for further impoverishment. You who could help those who attack, those who are poor, are surely acting destructively if you accept their poverty as yours. I'm not going to accept your attack as mine. I'm not going to accept that state of consciousness that you have of separation as mine. I'm not going to look at my experiences if I have lack just because you're looking at your experience as if something is lacking. If you had not invested as those who attack had, those who are in poverty had, it would never occur to you to overlook their need. So why do we overlook the needs of others? Because at some level we think we have the same need that they have. Right? Why would this is just an example. Why would I overlook your need for food unless I thought I didn't have any to give you myself? So I think I'm just as much sharing in the lack of food as you are, or I would share with you. So when we overlook each other's needs, at some level, it means that we also have invested in that same lack, whatever that lack is. This is hardcore, and I'm loving it. This is hardcore, and I'm loving it. Remember, in my Course in Miracles groups, in my Course in Miracles classes, it's about what is the Course in Miracles saying. How can we hear the instructions that we're being given? How can we apply it in our thinking? Because the Course in Miracles is always working at the level of perception. It's working at the level of how you see things. That's very important to remember. The Course in Miracles is about changing our perception of things. It's not trying to get us to go outside of ourselves for the answers, because everything in the world is neutral. They're just events happening. There are things happening. We're the ones that give it all the meaning that it has. So what is the Course in Miracles doing? It's giving us new interpretations, new meanings to give to everything that we perceive. And those new meanings should give us more peace of mind. And one of the main premises of the Course in Miracles is that when you have correct perception, you will have peace of mind. And don't you realize that when you have peace of mind, the Course in Miracles says you can hear the voice of your guidance. You can hear the voice of God within you when you have peace. That's why the number one priority of any Course in Miracles student should be peace of mind. Yes. That's what we need right now, is peace of mind. So the Course in Miracles says in paragraph 4, and I hope you're following along, paragraph 4, page 221 in the Course in Miracles text, Foundation for Inner Peace version. It says, recognize what doesn't matter. So what is it that we're being asked to recognize? What does not matter. We are used to trying to recognize what does matter. What is the Course in Miracles saying? Recognize what does not matter. So what do? Well, it says recognize what doesn't matter, and if your brothers ask you for something outrageous, if a person asks you for something outrageous, do it, because it doesn't matter. What? If somebody asks me to do something outrageous, you do it because it doesn't matter? What does that mean? Okay, don't stop and analyze that sentence. Let's see what the next sentence says. Refuse, and your opposition establishes that it does matter to you. It's only you, therefore, who made the request outrageous. And every request of a brother is for you. Everything that everybody is asking for is also what you're asking for, if we are all one. But the truth is, why would you insist in denying what they're asking for? But don't forget now, what is the Course in Miracles? Don't think about they asking for my car. Give it to them. It's not talking about that. What is the Course in Miracles talking about? Love or fear. It's talking about peace or conflict. Remember, we just finished the section that was dealing with love or a call for love, the Holy Spirit's curriculum. So don't forget what we've already covered. So when it says, it's only you, therefore, who made the request outrageous, and every request of a brother is for you, why would you insist on denying that person? For to do so is to deny yourself, and that impoverishes both of you. Then now, don't forget, now he's telling you what the person is asking for. That person is asking for salvation, which means they're asking for love. They're asking for peace. That's what they're really asking for. And it says that's what you're really asking for. Poverty, which we heard earlier, is investing wrongly, attacking, believing in lack. The Course says poverty is of the ego, the mind that thinks it's guilty, the mind that thinks it's a body, the mind that thinks it's separate, the mind that it says is angry. The Course says poverty is of the ego and not of God. So God is never creating any kind of lack. Love is never creating any kind of poverty. Nothing harmful comes from love. Nothing lacking comes from God, and God is love. So what does that mean? It means that no outrageous request can be made of one who recognizes what's valuable and wants to accept nothing but what's valuable. And from A Course in Miracles perspective, what is valuable? Forgiveness. What's valuable? Love. What's valuable? Peace. What's valuable? Oneness. Remember, the Course in Miracles is talking about love and fear, peace and conflict in your perception, in your mind. So when it says salvation is of the mind, peace is of the mind, love is of the mind, and it says salvation, which is your healing, which is your right-mindedness, is attained. Love is salvation, is of the mind. These are all Course in Miracles definitions of salvation. It says salvation is for the mind. Salvation, the healing is for the mind. Healing is for your thinking. Healing is for your mind. And it says that healing is attained how? Through peace. So how do you get the healing? Through peace. So what is the goal? Peace. The Course in Miracles says that peace is total fulfillment. Peace is total fulfillment. Peace is total fulfillment. Peace is complete fulfillment. So does that mean that the Course in Miracles definition of peace, one of them is total fulfillment and complete fulfillment? That's exactly what it means. It's not something dull. Peace isn't something dull. It isn't something passive. It isn't something boring. It's a state of total and complete fulfillment. The peace of God is the total and complete fulfillment of God. The total and complete fulfillment of love. Salvation is for the mind and is attained through what? Peace. Peace is the only thing that can be saved. And peace is the only way to save peace. It's interesting. Peace is the only thing I need to save in any situation is my peace, but I can only save my peace through peace. We think attack will bring peace, right? That's the nature of war. We think that to attack is somehow going to bring us peace. The Course in Miracles is saying the only thing that's going to bring peace is peace. Peace creates peace. Peace extends peace. War doesn't extend peace. Attack does not extend peace. So the Course says salvation is for the mind. So your healing is of the mind. Forgiveness is for the mind. And how do you attain it? Through peace. Peace is what? The only thing that can be saved. And the only way to save it is peace, is love. Peace and love are interchangeable from A Course in Miracles perspective. If you notice the very next sentence, it switches over and it says, peace is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save peace, any response other than love, any response other than love, any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and how of healing and salvation. And peace and love is the only answer. What do I want? Peace. How do I achieve it? Through peace. What do I want? Love. How do I achieve it? Through being loving. If I want love, I have to be loving. If I want peace, I have to be peaceful. If I want peace, I have to be peaceful. If I want peace, I have to be peaceful. If I want love, I have to be loving. I can't be a person that's constantly attacking and lacking and projecting and have peace. So if I want peace, I give peace. I give what I want to receive. I'm giving what I want to receive. That's how you have it, brothers and sisters. You have to give what you want to receive. I know it sounds complicated, but it's not. If I want love, I got to give love. If I want joy, I have to be joyful. If I want happiness, I have to share happiness. It's not rocket science here. It's really a determination to change my perception and to change my mind. It says in paragraph 5, never lose sight of this and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. Because if you believe that there's another answer other than giving what you want to receive, you will surely place yourself among who? The poor. Who are the poor? The poor are those who do not understand that they dwell in abundance. That's a great definition of those who are poor. A poor person is someone that doesn't understand they dwell in abundance and that their abundance and their salvation and their healing is come. So when the Course in Miracles talks about a poor person, it's not talking about finances. It's talking about a person that does not know that they dwell in abundance, that they dwell in love, that they dwell in peace. This is the Course in Miracles definition of a poor person. Take a breath. Let that sink in. Never lose sight of this. Give what you want to receive. If you want peace, give peace. If you want love, give love. Who are the poor? The poor are those who invest wrongly. The poor are those who attack and those who are angry, those who attack and those who lack, those who invest wrongly. A person that is investing wrongly is a person that's not investing in love, is a person that's not investing in peace. So who are the poor? Those who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation, their healing has come. Breathe. The ego is another term for fear, and the fearful mind, and the fearful thought. So let's look at paragraph 6 on page 221 in the text of A Course in Miracles. Chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's Curriculum, Section 3, the Investment in Reality. To identify with the ego, to identify with your fear, to identify with your guilt, to identify with being separate, to identify with thinking that you are only a body, to identify with the ego is to attack who? Yourself. And what does that do? It makes yourself poor. So when you see yourself as lacking, it's a result of attacking yourself. That's why everyone who identifies with fear, everyone who identifies with guilt, everyone who identifies with attack, everyone who identifies with the ego feels deprived. So how can you tell when you are identifying with what is not your true identity? You feel deprived. So whenever you are lying to yourself, whenever you are deceiving yourself, you will feel deprived. So if you think you're deprived of love, you're deceiving yourself. Love is available. If you think you're deprived of abundance, you're deceiving yourself. Abundance is your natural state. Abundance is who you are. Abundant is who and what you are. And the truest abundance, of course, is what? Love. So to identify with the ego is to attack yourself and make yourself poor. That's why everyone who identifies with fear feels deprived. Don't forget, the ego is just a fearful thought. What you experience when you identify with your ego, what you experience when you identify with the part of you that thinks you're deprived, what you experience when you identify with the part of you that's investing wrongly, then is what? Depression or anger. So why is it that you would feel depression and anger? It's because you exchanged loving yourself for hating yourself. So a person that's feeling depressed, a person that's feeling angry, the Course in Miracles says, you may not realize it, but what you have done is exchanged self-love for self-hate. That makes you afraid of yourself. Do you know that an angry, upset, depressed person is a person that's afraid of themselves? They're afraid of their power. That's a person that's afraid of love. Now, the next sentence is even more important. What does it say? He does not realize this. You don't realize this. You don't realize what? You don't realize that when you are experiencing depression or anger, it's because you exchange loving yourself for hating yourself. When you're feeling depression and anger, it means you are afraid of yourself, your real self, but you don't realize it. You don't realize it. So of course you'll say, I don't agree with that maybe, or that doesn't make sense to me. It says you don't realize it. You don't realize that you are hating yourself when you are afraid of yourself and when you're feeling depression and anger. The Course in Miracles says, even if you are fully aware of anxiety, and isn't there a lot of people that's aware of their anxiety? But it says, even when you're fully aware of anxiety, you don't perceive the source of the anxiety as what? Your own ego identification. The fact that I'm identifying with my fear, the fact that I'm identifying with being separate from God, the fact that I'm identifying with being in anger or sickness or lack, the investment in something that is not real. So why is it that you are going through anxiety? It's because you are identifying with something that's not you. You are not that body. You are not separate. You are not your guilt. You are not your fear. You are not your anger. You are not your lack. And when you identify with that part of yourself, the Course in Miracles says it will cause you anxiety, depression, or anger. So, what do? The Course in Miracles says, well, what happens then is that you always try to handle the anxiety by making some sort of an insane arrangement with the world. So immediately I think of something outside of myself that I need to do to make me feel better. I come up with something that I think I need to do outside of myself to give me peace. The Course in Miracles says, instead of realizing that your unhappiness is coming from identifying with your ego, the part of you that thinks it's separate from God, the Course in Miracles says we think it's something outside of ourselves. We think we need to make some type of arrangement in the outer world in order to get rid of our anxiety. So it says we try to come up with an arrangement to get rid of our anxiety. Next sentence says the person that's full of anxiety always perceives the world as outside themselves, for this is crucial to your adjustment. The Course in Miracles says we don't realize that we make this world. You don't realize that you are making your perception. You don't realize you are making your false perceptions that upset you. In the workbook, there's a section called What is the World? And the Course in Miracles says the world is false perception. It is fearful, separate perception. So the Course in Miracles says that you perceive the world as outside yourself when you're full of anger, guilt, and grievances. Then you try to make some kind of insane arrangement with the world to try to make yourself feel better. And then he says you don't realize you're making the world that you're seeing. You're making the perceptions that you are seeing. For there is no world outside of you. There is no world outside of you. There is no perception that's outside of you. Everything you see is coming from inside of you. Nothing you see is coming from outside of you. How you see the world is coming from inside of you. The world is inside of you. Your perceptions come from inside of you. Your perceptions do not come from outside in. Your perceptions come from inside out. You're the one that's determining how you see things. So your world, your perception of your world and what's happening in your world and the way that you react to that is coming from who? It's coming from you. So say this right now. There is no world outside of me. There is no world outside of me. Say this to yourself right now. There is no world outside of me. There is no world outside of me. The way you see the world is coming from inside your mind. The way that you see the world is coming from inside of you. It's not coming from outside of you. The Course in Miracles says we don't realize that we make this world. For there is no world outside of you. Whew.
Amen.
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 There is
Amen.
no world
Amen.
outside of you.
Yes.
Your perceptions are coming from you.
Yes.
You know, and that's so important because the Course in Miracles says a person that is in fear, anger, and depression is a person that doesn't realize that. They believe that they are victims of the world that they see. They believe that everything is coming from the outside, that their feelings are coming from the outside. But your feelings are not coming from the outside. They're being determined by the meaning that you're giving to what you see. So your perception is coming from you.
Yes.
All right, so take a breath. Woo! My companions online, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Woo!
All right, here we go. Here's the next paragraph. If only the loving thoughts that you have are the world's reality. So the world is only as real as the loving thoughts you have. Your world is only as real as the loving thoughts that you have. Your world is only as loving as the loving thoughts you have. Because if you do not experience love from within yourself, you wouldn't even recognize love if it was right in front of your face. So you could be surrounded by love and you think there was no love in the world for you because it's your loving thoughts that allow you to recognize love. So it says, if only the loving thoughts of God's son, God's child, are the world's reality, then you know where the real world is located? Where is the real world located? It's located in your mind. So that also means, regretfully, that your insane thoughts, your fearful thoughts, your unhappy thoughts are also where? In your mind, right? So the Course in Miracles says, but, now this is deep, y'all, okay? I want you to hear this. This is going to take a minute. Don't analyze it. Just hear it. Here you go. If the loving thoughts that you have in your world's reality, then that means the real loving world must be in your mind. But you also have insane fear thoughts that also must be in your mind. But that also means you have an internal conflict between your insane thoughts and your sane thoughts. So the Course says an internal conflict of this magnitude, you can't tolerate having insane thoughts both in your mind. So what you do is you realize, he says, that you realize that your mind is in danger. You have a split mind. It's split between love and fear. It's split between my sane thoughts and my insane thoughts. So the Course in Miracles says a split mind is endangered. And the recognition that you have completely opposite thoughts within your mind is intolerable. So I got crazy thoughts and sane thoughts. I got loving thoughts. I got fearful thoughts. I got guilty thoughts. I got innocent thoughts. But the Course in Miracles says that becomes intolerable to you. So therefore you project the split, but you don't project the reality. In other words, everything you perceive as the outside world is merely your attempt to maintain your identification with being separate. When you're coming from your ego, when you're coming from fear, everything you're looking at is maintaining whatever identification you believe about yourself. The world is going to witness back to you what you identify with. So the Course in Miracles says, therefore the mind projects the split, not the love, not the reality, not the oneness, and everything you see as the outside world is what? Your attempt to maintain your ego identification. For everyone believes that identification is salvation. What does that mean? Everyone believes that their peace is going to come from whatever they believe they are and whoever they believe they are. Whatever it is that I believe I am, that's what I believe is going to bring me happiness and peace and joy. Yet, let's look at this another way. It says, consider what has happened. Okay, so what are you going to do right now? You're going to consider what has happened. Okay, let's do that. Let's consider what has happened. Okay, here we go. Thoughts do have consequences to the thinker. So your thoughts have consequences. Your thoughts have consequences. Now, you have become at odds with the world as you perceive it. You become at odds, those who feel at odds, then you are feeling at odds with the world as you perceive it. Why? Why are you at odds with the world? Why is a person at odds with the world? Well, the Course in Miracles says you're at odds with the world because you think the world is antagonistic to you. If I believe the world is antagonistic to me, then it's going to look like I'm always at odds with something or somebody because I'm looking at the world as if it's antagonistic to me. So it reflects antagonism back at me. The world is a mirror, a three-dimensional mirror that's a reflection of my state of mind. Your world is a three-dimensional reflection of your state of mind, the way you see things. So the Course in Miracles says, if you believe that everybody is antagonistic to you, you're going to look like you're at odds with the world. It's going to always look like you're at odds with somebody or another. That's why you must realize what? What is it that you need to realize? You need to realize that your hatred is in your own mind. Any hatred, fear, anger, guilt, or grievances that you experience, it's in your own mind. The Course in Miracles says you must realize that your hatred is in your mind and not outside your mind before you can get rid of it. So if I want to get rid of the hate in the world, I need to get rid of the hate in my mind. If you want to see more love in the world, you have to let go of anger, guilt, grievances, and hate in your mind. It says it right here. You must realize that your hatred is in your mind and not outside it before you can get rid of it. And why you must get rid of the hatred and fear in your mind before you can see the world as it really is. If you want to see this grand and glorious world as it really is, you have to get rid of the fear in your mind. You have to get rid of the anger in your mind. You have to get rid of the guilt in your mind, the sense of separation from the Creator that's in your mind. So what do? First, you realize that the hatred, the fear, the upset is in your mind and not outside it before you can get rid of it. That's why you must get rid of it before you can see the world and the beauty and the love that the world really is. Another breathing, breathe. You must realize that the hatred and fear are in your mind and not outside your mind before you can get rid of it. And why you must get rid of it out of your mind before you can perceive the world as the world really is. And the Course in Miracles workbook has the purpose of doing just that, giving you daily exercises that you do in order to give you that change of mind that the Course in Miracles says has to happen. It's not going to happen through you thinking about it. It's not going to happen through necessarily you just reading the Course. If you're a Course in Miracles student, you need to do the workbook lessons. It's important to do the workbook lessons. It makes the Course in Miracles practical. It gives you thoughts and ideas to use in your everyday life. All right, we headed into home stretch. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Don't forget the 4-time rule. Do your best over the next week to watch this video at least 4 times. Allow yourself to hear this at least 4 times. 4 is the number of building. It's the number of the foundation of what you're doing. So here we go. I said before that God so loved the world that God gave it to God's only begotten Son. So God so loved the world that God gave it to you. Now, the God, the Creator, does love the real world. And those who perceive the reality of the real world, the world of love, cannot see the world of death. So when you see the world of love, you'll no longer see the world that it looks like death happens. Because you'll know that there is no such thing as death in terms of the eternal souls and spirits that we really are. So even if it looks like there's death, you'll know that there is no death. So therefore, you really won't be looking at the world of death anymore. Think about that for a minute. That's kind of deep. For death is not of the real world. Death is not of the real world. Because in the real world, everything reflects what's permanent and eternal. Wow. So God gave you the real world. God gave you the world that everything reflects the eternal in exchange for the world you made that seems to have death in it, that's being made out of your split mind that thinks it's separate from God, that has this internal conflict, which is my sane thoughts being in conflict with my insane thoughts, my loving thoughts being in conflict with my fear thoughts. He says that's the split mind that gives you a world that would make you be tempted to believe in the reality of death, which isn't true. Do you know that if you could really separate yourself from the mind of God, you really would die? If it was really possible to separate yourself from that which created you, then you could die, but it's impossible. Say, it's impossible. It's impossible for me to separate myself from the mind of love. It's impossible. Now, the world that you perceive is the world of separation, especially in terms of the things that we're experiencing right now. We're not seeing, if you don't see this as the world of separation right now, I don't know what it would take to make you see the point of this point, right? So the Course says, now, perhaps you're willing to accept even death to deny your relationship to God. Yet your Creator would not have you die, and so you will not deny your Creator and you will not die. That's good to hear. Yet, you, check this out, you still cannot will against God. You still cannot will against your Creator. And that's why you have no control over the world you made. Why is it that you don't have any control over the world you made? Because you're not the one that's controlling everything. God controls everything, and everything is love, and everything is the extension of love. So I don't care how much you hate yourself. I don't care how much you judge. I don't care how angry you get, how upset you get, how alone you think you are. It'll never be true. You don't have any control over what's real. And what's real is love. And love is eternal. It's always there. Your connection to Source is always there. And you don't have any control over that. You don't have any control over the love that your Creator has for you.
Amen.
There's nothing you can do to lose eternal love.
Amen.
And so that's what the Course means when it says you have no control over the world. It means that you can't change the eternal love of God. It says, it is not a world of will, because this world is governed by the desire to be unlike God. This world is governed by the desire to be unloving, separate. So he says this desire is not will. So what does that mean? Well, it means the world you made is therefore totally chaotic. The world of fear is governed by arbitrary and senseless laws that don't really have any meaning of any kind. So the only laws that has any meaning are the laws of God, the laws of love. Those are the only rules that will never change. You can always depend on it. It's always permanent. Any laws that we make up, they change, they have exceptions, they're not consistent, they're temporary. In other words, it's what we made up. And what we made up will never have any true meaning, ever. So the Course in Miracles says, this world is made out of what you don't want. Projected from your mind because you are afraid of what's in your mind. So the Course in Miracles says, as soon as you don't want something, you throw it away. Well, that's the same as projection, right? I projected it, right? And so it says, I projected it from my mind, but what are you afraid of all day? The stuff that you projected from your mind. You're looking at the things that you fear are projections from your mind. You project it, you see it. I project the fear, I see that fear. I project the lack, I see that lack. Think about it. Yet this world is only in the mind of its maker, along with your real peace. Don't believe this world is outside yourself. Don't believe your perceptions are outside yourself. Don't believe your perceptions are outside of yourself. For only by recognizing where this world is, which is in your own mind, will you gain control over it. So if you want to gain control over your world, if you want to gain control over what you see, you have to realize it's not outside your mind, it's inside your mind. For you do have control over what? Your mind. Since your mind is the mechanism of decision, MOD for short. So what is MOD? What is the mind? The mind is your mechanism of choice. Your mind is your mechanism of decision. And you can choose, you can decide. Heaven, love, and peace is a decision you must make. It's not something in some event or circumstance outside of you. It's a decision that you make. Peace is a choice that you make. So what is your mind? It's the mechanism of decision. Take a breath. Take another breath right quick. I have to make sure this is intense. You ready? Let me share this last paragraph with you. If you will recognize that all the attack you perceive is in your own mind. All the attack that you perceive is in your own mind.
Lord have mercy.
All the attack you perceive is in your own mind and nowhere else. All of the lack, all of the anger, all of the loneliness and the depression that you see is in your own mind. But guess what? Guess what? All the joy, all the peace, all the abundance, the health and healing, the unity, the oneness is also in your own mind, in your own mind. So all attack you perceive is in your own mind and nowhere else. And when you realize that, you will at last have placed its source. And where attack begins, which is in your mind, is where anger and attack ends. It's in your mind. It's in your thinking. Wow. Wow. For in this same place in your mind lies your salvation, lies your healing. So the altar of God, which is the altar of love, which is where the Christ, which is your true self, abideth, is there. You defiled the altar, yeah, but not the world. So I want you to bring your perceptions of the world to the altar of truth. Don't try to bring truth to your misperceptions and fears. What you want to do is bring your misperceptions and fears to the truth, to be healed, to be corrected. So it says right here on page 223, paragraph 10, it says, bring your perceptions of the world to this altar, for it is the altar of truth. And when you bring everything to the truth, there you will see your vision changed. And there, at the altar of truth, you will learn to see truly. From this place, the altar to truth, you can even see the course as an example of the altar to truth. From this place where God and you dwell in peace, and where you are welcome, where you're living in peace and where you are welcome, what does it say? You will look out in peace. And guess what happens when you have a peaceful mind? Guess what happens when you look out in peace? It says you will behold the world truly. You will see the world lovingly. You will see the world correctly. Yet to find the place, okay, how do I find this place of total peace and total fulfillment? The Course says to find the place, you must relinquish your investment in the world as you project it. You got to stop investing in the way that you see things that's fearful, angry, lacking, and attacking. You have to stop investing in projection in the form of attack. The Course says you must relinquish your investment, your insistence, remember, your insistence in the world as you are projecting it. So what happens when you are willing to let go of your fearful, incorrect perceptions that's in your mind? He says that will allow the Holy Spirit, that will allow God, that will allow love, that will allow Source to do what? To extend the real world, the eternally loving world to you. You have to let love extend love to you by letting go of your investment in your ego and your fear and your desire to attack and believing in lack. He says when you do that, you will allow the Holy Spirit to extend the real world. Allow the Holy Spirit to extend the real world. Allow love to extend the real world to you from the altar of God. What? Allow the Holy Spirit to extend the real world to you from the altar of love. You must relinquish your investment in the world the way that you've been projecting the world. Allowing the Holy Spirit to extend the real world to you from the altar of God. Now don't forget, you want to listen to this at least 4 times. I am so glad that you tuned in with this today, the investment in reality. I really needed that. I'm Earl Purdy. I'm a full-time teacher of A Course in Miracles. And I would appreciate your support. And I would like you to know that if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, then go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, earlpurdy.com. Also, you can use Venmo. And my email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. I'm also available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions, where I take my 40 years of teaching and learning the Course in Miracles, as well as use my skills as a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist, if you're also open to that. And we have a personal one-on-one session that we can get past the blocks together and allow you to have more clarity about the best approach to take toward everything that's going on in your life right now. So on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, I do what I call Hardcore Course in Miracles. Hardcore Course in Miracles is especially for Course in Miracles students who are studying the Course in Miracles and would like to take advantage of 4 decades of obsession on my part with the Course in Miracles. And on Sundays, we do it at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, A Course in Miracles. It feels so good to be sharing this with you. So let's do a quick wrap up of what we are talking about right here. You ready? Don't forget. You make this world. You make this world according to the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs that you have. And they are projected outward. There's no world outside of you. So you want to make a point now of investing in reality, which means to invest in the truth, invest in God, invest in yourself right now. If it seems like things are antagonistic to you, it's because you are unconsciously, without realizing it, being at odds with yourself and the things around you. Here's the good news. You don't have any control over reality. Reality is love. Reality is pure joy. And there's nothing you can do to change that. So don't believe that anything that's going on is happening outside of your own mind. So what is the beauty of the mind? What is the power of the mind? That the mind is the mechanism of decision. The power of decision is your own power. The power of decision is your own power. So you can decide to see everything right. You can decide to see things from love. Are you willing to relinquish your investment in the world as your fearful mind may be projecting it? Are you willing to allow the Holy Spirit to extend the real world? Allow the Holy Spirit to extend the real world of love, of peace, of joy. Don't put yourself around don't make yourself a poor person. So what is a poor person? It's a person who does not understand that they dwell in abundance. They've lost sight of the reality that they dwell in abundance. That's your call for love. That's your call for healing. So remember to recognize what doesn't matter and to know that what is to be saved is your peace. And you save peace through peace. Don't forget that. Hey, don't forget that. Mighty companions, I love you. Y'all awesome. I appreciate all the comments that you were making. I'll read back through those comments. Thank you, CJ, for narrating and working and talking to him and helping out. Guess what, y'all? Share this video, please. And may the course be with you. I appreciate y'all so much. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
I love all of y'all.